Right here, Gabe.
Is there anything specific, Coach, in terms of changes, maybe just outlook, practice, scheme, personnel, anything you can let us know about, Coach?
No, I thought last week, I laid out the plan on Tuesday, what we were, what the practice plan was, what the intent was, what the philosophy was of last week, which was about us on Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday. Back to game plan this week. There's been guys who accepted the challenge, and as we said, guys who wanted to talk about and felt like they deserved a chance to play. We gave them the opportunities last week to demonstrate either where they were, and some guys who are currently playing to kind of hang on to where they are. So that's one thing playing against us as we enter into game planning. Which started really yesterday, and back into full pads today and tomorrow. We'll give some of these guys a chance to really demonstrate where they are with the game plan, how they can execute it. So, I can give you a depth chart if you want, but you've been around me long enough to know that doesn't mean anything. Whoever runs out there Saturday is going to run out there at 11:01, and I think our guys understand they've had their opportunity to prove to us what what they want to play. And let me say this, we just don't change for change's sake. I think sometimes there's something out there. I mean, coaches, I think, see things in practice, and we give guys the opportunity in practice to demonstrate to coaches and to the other players that they understand what we're trying to do, what we're doing, and are efficient and proficient at what we're doing. And by the same token, you have the same opportunity to demonstrate that you can't do that, basically, in what we did last week in some live situations. And so the more that you're able to do that, the better your opportunity is to play. And so that's where we are right now. And that hadn't changed from last Tuesday when I talked to you. That was the emphasis last week. Now this week, we're on to game planning for Monroe.
Over to the left, Chip.
Kevin, having said that, have you seen so far what you wanted to see from the entire group as you challenged them last week?
Yeah, I think a lot of times things get generalized. Well, this team is that. This team is this. This team is that. I don't see that. I see a team where the three challenges that I brought up last week, you've got certain players that weren't playing smart. You've got certain players that didn't play hard, and you've got some players that didn't play physical. And when you have certain players that are doing that across the board, then I don't think it's a general thing. There weren't 40 guys or 50 guys that all were in one category. So you approach that as a team. Does that make sense? And you address that. So, in that bye week, as I said, our goal was to address as many things as we could as a program. You have more time at the end of the year to go through everything with a fine comb. When you're in the middle of the season, particularly week 8, 9, what I try to do is address as many things as I can possibly address with the intent of winning the next week and giving our guys, our team, the best chance to win schematically and personnel-wise. And that's what you do in the middle of the year. At the end of the year, that becomes a different evaluation. Does that make sense?
Go to the left, Cease.
Kevin DeShazer talked about a lot of practices with full pads. Did you try to make a special effort to get more physicality last week? And could you talk about how that went then?
I thought that we took some time off at the beginning of the week. I thought that we did a few things in full pads, yeah. So we needed that. So and I don't, it's interesting to hear him say that, which is a good thing.
Over here, Kate.
Is Kenny Hill still your starting quarterback, and have you seen him respond specifically to the challenges of the last couple of weeks?
They've both gotten reps over the last week and will both continue to get reps. So, nothing's changed from last Tuesday when I said, hey, listen, we're going to go through this thing, and just like every other position is out there, we're playing football. After what's happened You heard me say, Kate, right after the game. There was really nothing off the table at that point, and it gets back to what I said earlier. That change for change's sake is impractical. What you have to do is be able to have a reason for change, and is that reason your ability to be efficient and prove to people that you can handle what's going on, or disprove that you're ready to play in those practice situations. So credibility amongst the players and amongst the coaching staff is at a premium, particularly right now with where we are.
Over here, KO on the left.
So is the team angry? Are they upset? Are they ready to go? Is it that kind of attitude that they're bringing
I've
in?
never talked about an angry team.
No, that's what I'm asking.
I don't know that they're angry.
Other questions?
I mean, I've never. I don't know. I don't understand what you're trying to say. Okay.
Over here to the left, Cease.
Kevin, what about the health of your team? I think last week we didn't ask. Speedy Noel didn't play some of the last series against Alabama, and he mentioned about Ivan Robinson. He's pretty banged up a little bit. Could you talk about the health of you expect everyone to play, and how those two guys are doing specifically?
Yeah, I think looking back and evaluating where we are and where we were, I probably underestimated the 8-game stretch, and and how we handled it. We didn't handle it the right way, and so that's something that I don't know. Somebody told me there were 115 of the 126 schools that had a bye week in that 8 weeks, and we didn't. So we're one of only 10 or 11 schools that didn't do that, and the end of that stretch, in particular, being the hardest part of it. So we had a substantial amount of guys who were banged up and beat up. And I would say mentally tired, just looking back at certain things. So, that's something that we tried to address last week. I think the bye week came at a great time for us. Usually you lose, particularly in the way we lost. Bye week is the worst time for that to happen. And I think in this situation it was much needed. And it gave us an opportunity to look within, I think, to heal up, and as much mentally as it is the physical stress. So, it's never a good time in any program for a loss like that. But there are good times for bye weeks. And I think that our bye week came at the right time for us, and that how we have taken advantage of it from a practice standpoint, I think we've been smart. We've gotten done what we've needed to get done, as you alluded to with DeShazer from a physical standpoint. But we've also been able to take some pressure off of our guys mentally from that grind with the practice plan, and I liked our attitude coming out to practice yesterday, and we'll see today. I think the key is going to be sustaining, as we talked about last week and Monday. Anybody can do something once. All right, now what? Are we going to go back to where we were 3 or 4 weeks ago for the last couple of weeks, or are we going to move on to the team that we used to be? And based on how we practiced yesterday, I'd say the latter will be the case.
To the back, Daryl.
Coach, Louisiana Monroe, a team that's certainly not scared. This will be the third SEC team that they played this year. Can you just kind of break them down for us?
Yeah, Coach Berry's done a great job wherever he's been. They have a number of players from the state of Texas. I saw a stat where, I don't know, besides a couple Big 12 schools, they're right up there with everybody, which means that they'll have a lot of guys here that have been to Kyle Field, either officially, unofficially, grew up knowing a lot about Texas A&M. They'll be excited to play Saturday afternoon. They'll have friends and family here. playing 2 other SEC schools. They won't be intimidated by the atmosphere or by the teams. I think the interesting stat out of everything, we talk about the number of sacks that we have. They've got more sacks than we do coming into this game. So we're going to have to protect the passer. We're going to have to do some things and be able to create some things offensively in their 3-3 stack, which is a lot different look than you see, but a blitzing style that creates negative yardage plays, which they're famous for, and playing man-to-man. So from that standpoint, they've done a nice job with creating negative plays defensively. They move the ball offensively well enough. They got an outstanding kicker. So like I said, they won't be intimidated coming in here after playing a couple SEC schools and a bunch of guys from the state. They'll be excited Saturday afternoon.
Anything else? Out here, Gabe, on the right.
You can learn a lot about individuals when things are struggling like this. Have individuals stepped up, and have you noticed guys leading that maybe previously haven't been leading locally?
That's an interesting question. In last week, I don't know that that's something that we were looking for. I think last week we're looking for improvement across the board. Times like this, it's not time to talk. I'll just put it that way. It's not time to have team meetings. It's not time for guys to yell and scream or do all that. What it's time for is action. And that was really the message last week, Gabe. So, if that's going on behind the scenes, that's great. But, this business, life pays off on results and not talk.
Down front here, Brent.
This is something y'all probably don't have a whole lot of time for during the season, but in terms, I know there's the idea that they're going to honor some ways the 1939 national champions. During the offseason, how much do you visit and how important is it for your players to kind of have a good sense of the history of a program, just kind of in a general sense, not just necessarily that program?
Yeah, it is good. I think, we have that's a good question, Brent, because our guys here have a real sense of the history of the program. And, there's an old saying, you should never, ever confuse history for tradition or the other. And what is that? Well, history is playing football. The tradition are things that surround the football program, like Midnight Yell, 12th Man, and winning is part of a tradition. So, those two things are very, very different. And so we spend time with our players talking about history and trying to be a part of both. Being a part of history is what there's a sign in there that says leave your jersey in a better place, and you owe it as an Aggie to leave your jersey in a better place for the next guy to wear it, and that's part of the history that we want our players to be a part of, but also respect the people who came before you. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of national championships. And one of the great things about being able to respect that history is the national championship team that we have. We're going to pay honor to in an anniversary edition. So, that's a big deal for our players. But it's also a big deal for them to still try to be a part of that history and tradition, because we haven't had a lot of 10 or 11 win seasons, and it gives our guys also an opportunity to really be a part of those types of things. Like the first year we were here, I think that team was one of, I don't know, 4 or 5 teams?
Yes, sir.
To win 11 games. And that was a big deal. And that's a big deal to these guys currently, but it's also a big deal to look back at the teams and the guys who played here that were successful and have a respect for how they played the game, who they were, and what they accomplished here. And you know, particularly in a Kyle Field that's changing. And you know, it's really kind of a you know, it's like anybody would say in 1939, nobody would ever imagine that Kyle Field will look the way it is right now or will look next year. And so, you know, you have to have a healthy respect for that, and our guys do.
Right here, Olin.
Yeah, Kevin, you know, earlier you said that the 8-game grind, that maybe you didn't handle it correctly. I think so. Could you share what?
No, what I
you
said
might have done
was,
different?
I think my exact, I don't know what my exact words were, but I think the 8-game stretch was took a bigger toll than we thought, and I probably didn't handle that properly, particularly with the 3 hardest games coming at the end of that 8-game stretch. And we were our situation was a little bit different than most people in the country. That's not an excuse. That's something that we needed to manage better. And just like I said last week, you know, everything starts with when you go through something like we just went through. You know, for some people it's catastrophic if it continues. You know, fortunately that's not who we are, who we've been. And so for me, it starts with me. How do you do things better? What could you have done better in those situations? And if that's presented, you know, another time, you know, what are you going to do about it? And that's all part of the evaluation process. Now, that being said, you have to recognize that not as an excuse, but something that happened. And where do we go from here? And basically, that's what I was getting at, just about, you know, how we handle that. Okay, that's fine. Maybe we didn't handle that properly, but now what? And that's what last week was about. And from a physical and a mental approach, you know, from here on out for the rest of the year.
Go to the left here, Kate.
Kevin, a couple times over the years you've mentioned getting some feedback when you go to the gas station or around town. Just wondering if you've been getting a lot of unsolicited
No, nobody talks
advice.
to me right now. They don't. Yeah. I haven't got a lot of number 1 signals yet, though. That's when it gets real bad.
And then, obviously, you're concerned about your team, obviously. But with the first college football playoff rankings coming out, it's kind of historic. Will you be paying attention just to see how this goes, how it looks?
You know, it's an interesting time. I think the committee has got, you know, from what I understand, they've got a pretty good handle on it. You know, and interesting to see how it comes out, what happens. Obviously, I think it's, you know, I've said it from day one, I think it's very, very exciting for college football. I think it's a great thing. I think it creates more excitement week to week. You know, I think there's something to the polls waiting as long as they've waited, and having a better handle on where people are and what's going on. So, you know, the playoff system as a whole, you know, are there going to be people disappointed? There's always people disappointed. You know, for years, number 3 was disappointed. Now, for years, number 5 is going to be disappointed. But there are going to be less people disappointed. And the excitement for college football is going to be those 2 games leading up to a championship game that it's really what people want to see. And the ongoing argument, whether it's teams, whether it's conferences, whatever that is, you got a better chance to have it settled but with 4 teams than you did with 2.
All right. Zach, last one on the left. We'll get Coach Snyder up here.
Coach, with the fast start that you guys had, did you ever get a feeling of maybe some of the players, a feeling of complacency? Were they always striving just to work extra harder that week, or did you get a feeling of that?
No.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
Thanks.